Into the latest on that Iran conflict. Joining us now is Pyotr Kurzin, who's former UN official and host of the Global Gambit podcast. Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming in. Can we start with Donald Trump, as we often have to on these sort of global events at the minute? From what you've heard him talking about, where do you think we are with the talks and where potentially peace might come in the next few days?
Well, as you rightly said from the start, it's Donald Trump, so things seem to change every 20 minutes. And that's legitimately accurate in this case, because in the time that we've been coming to this moment now, he's made yet another update about the situation. Over the weekend, he said about the 48 hours threat, and maybe that's an idea of what's known as deterrence theory, right? He's trying to deter the Iranians by making a very big threat about one of the most important parts of the country, infrastructure, potential military sites to target. But in my mind, I think this is just him flip-flopping. There's a lot of ideas of TACO, that he wants to change his opinion, back out. But I think it boils down to the fact that he doesn't really have a strategy. The Trump administration went into this without a clear, or at least differing idea of a strategic plan, compared to the Israelis, who have a very clear one.
And he's put quite a bit of pressure on other world leaders, particularly on Keir Starmer and the UK as well. What is your take, and I suppose the Iranian perspective, on how the UK have behaved in this far more cautious approach to the US?
The UK perspective is nuanced. I am very critical of the British government's approach in some ways, but I'm equally very glad that we haven't gotten involved. You can be involved in an offensive capacity, so you engage in the strikes in Iran on Hezbollah or whatever, or you can be defensive, i.e. protecting Cyprus, your respective assets and interests. In this regard, the British government was primarily approaching a defensive posture, but they took so long to respond over Cyprus, which is why I've been heavily critical. So I think that the British government needs to be more determined. We need to work with allies and partners in a defensive posture.
And we've talked a lot about the Strait of Hormuz, which controls so much of the world's shipping and production of various things, and transportation of all sorts of elements that we require in every country in the world. That and the effect on price of oil and gas, that seems to be such a crucial part of this conflict, doesn't it?
Well, the Iranians know they can't go toe-to-toe with the American military, so they use asymmetrical warfare. Napoleon called it decisive points, but you hit points of pressure, i.e. oil infrastructure of the Gulf states. The Strait of Hormuz seems to be the key one. It's a fifth of oil and energy comes through there. Qatar has cut off all of its LNG production now. So the point is that the Iranians are trying to put disproportionate amounts of emphasis in areas that they know will hurt the global economy. And the last point I'd make is that some people speculate Trump is now seeking these talks because he's just seeing how bad the markets are getting.
And one thing we've not touched on is Israel, who are major players in this, and they've got this conflict with Lebanon at the moment. How is that going to influence what we see more broadly in terms of trying to get towards peace?
Well, this brings us back to the original question about what is the strategic plan. Not only is there differences within the Trump administration, there's differences between Israel and the Americans. The Americans want to get an off-ramp. They want some kind of deal or win. Trump's very much about wins, but the Israelis will continue this. So even if the Americans and Iranians establish some kind of deal or peace or ceasefire at least, the Israelis will continue. And Lebanon, I'm very sad, will become the new flashpoint.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for coming in and spending a bit of time with us on 5 News tonight.
Much appreciated.